You've tried everything: therapy, self-discovery, spirituality, and still, something pulls you back. A nameless sadness. An ache that shows up out of nowhere, like it has a mind of its own. You grow, you evolve, but somehow end up in the same emotional place. As if an invisible root keeps you stuck, holds you back from truly expanding, blooming. That root has a name: mother. But no one wants to look at this. There's a sacred aura around the idea of a mother. Untouchable, almost saint-like. Questioning that image feels like breaking an unspoken rule. But ignoring this pain doesn't make it go away. The truth is, no deep emotional healing can happen without facing the mother wound. Real transformation only begins when you confront this ancestral mirror and start to integrate it within yourself. In this video, you'll understand why so many of your deepest blocks stem from this root, and what really needs to happen for you to finally break free of old patterns. And to top it off, by the end of the video, I'll share practical tools to help you begin your healing journey today. Stick around till the end. This might unlock something in you that's been stuck for years. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. Around here, we talk about truths most people are too scared to touch. But once spoken, they begin to heal. You grow up thinking you're dealing with the outside world, when in reality, most of your reactions are echoes from within. An old, familiar presence that's hard to name. Sometimes, it soothes you. Other times, it sabotages you. It's the voice that demands perfection, that shames you for resting, that makes you feel guilty for wanting something just for yourself. That voice runs deep, and often, it isn't even yours. It's what Carl Jung called the mother complex. The complex isn't your actual mother. It's the imprint your relationship with her left inside you. An emotional pattern that lingers, even if you've left home. Even if she's no longer here. It's a cluster of memories, feelings, and automatic reactions that formed around her, and still shape your life today. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding. As long as you keep protecting the image of the ideal mother, you'll keep shielding the pain that image carries. You'll keep justifying what hurt you. Keep denying the impact it had. That's the trap. Believing that just because you understand her reasons, your pain should disappear. But empathy doesn't heal trauma. The mother complex works in the background, and as long as you don't recognize it, it runs the show. It makes you repeat patterns you thought you'd outgrown, keeps you in relationships that echo that look, makes you shrink every time you try to stand up for yourself. Because deep down, there's still a child in you trying to please a mother who maybe never truly saw who you were. And that's where freedom begins, when you stop trying to change the past and start seeing how it still lives inside you. When you begin to notice the mother complex at work, something uncomfortable rises. The realization that the love that shaped you might have wounded you too. That pain can take many forms, but it usually stems from the same source. A broken or distorted bond at the core of your identity. And it tends to show up in two extremes. On one side, the devouring mother. The one who couldn't tell where she ended and you began. She intruded on your desires, made decisions for you, shaped your life with her own hands. You grew up trying to fit into a space she designed, even if that space suffocated everything that was truly yours. In that relationship, love meant obedience, self-erasure, carrying dreams that weren't yours. On the other side, the absent mother. A mother only in name. Distant, cold, emotionally unavailable. The one who couldn't see your needs, didn't recognize your emotions, never truly connected. You learned early on that crying, asking, hoping, none of it mattered. You learned to survive on your own, but it came at a cost. You grew up believing you couldn't rely on anyone, not even yourself. These two types leave different scars, but equally deep ones. One traps, the other abandons. One suffocates, the other empties. But the feeling that lingers is the same. The belief that you must shape yourself, prove yourself, protect yourself, constantly. And it doesn't just fade with time. If left unexamined, this pattern repeats. Across your relationships, your career, even your personal boundaries. You love with fear. You open up, but with hesitation. You pull away when things get too close. Because deep down, the lesson stuck. Love is risky. Being yourself, even more so. The child learns early that just existing comes with a cost. That being spontaneous can lead to rejection. That expressing pain might push people away. So, they adapt. They lower their voice, suppress their impulses, rehearse their smiles. They do whatever it takes to keep even a sliver of affection within reach, and without even realizing it, they start building a persona. Not a lie, but a carefully edited version of themselves. The easy child, the straight-A student, the adult who's helpful, pleasant, in control. A character born in response to the mother, and eventually projected onto the world. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to function in society. It's necessary, but when we mistake it for our true self, it becomes a cage. If your persona was built to earn maternal love, it likely relies on traits like obedience, performance, or self-censorship. You learned that love was conditional, that affection had to be earned, and that belief doesn't disappear, even if your mother isn't around anymore. You start living in fear of making mistakes, of letting someone down, of revealing something that won't be accepted. Because deep down, you're still chasing that safe spot where love feels guaranteed. Only now, it's not about her. It's about the whole world. The persona once protected your pain, but it also distanced you from your true self. You got used to pleasing others, anticipating their needs, adjusting to your surroundings. And the more you do that, the further you drift from your essence. On the outside, you seem fine. On the inside, you're exhausted. Because keeping up a version of yourself that was born out of need, not desire, is draining. And eventually, your body starts to call out that lie. When you disconnect from who you are, your body feels it. Because it doesn't forget what your mind tried to silence. That recurring tension, those unexplained breakdowns, the insomnia that seems to come out of nowhere. They could all be echoes of unspoken pain, chronic anxiety, emotional numbness, binge eating, trouble taking a full breath. These aren't random symptoms. Often, they're physical expressions of a nervous system raised on alert, always trying to guess when the next emotional blow might come. The body learns survival before you even understand what's happening, and it remembers how. Tight shoulders, a clenched jaw, a reactive gut. This is the body that held back tears, swallowed screams, shrank itself to fit into the space your mother made. That body is still here. When your mother was unpredictable, your body stayed on guard. When she was overly critical, your body learned to hide anything that might be judged. When she was absent, your body realized it had to protect itself, without a clue how. This kind of tension isn't just stress, it's memory. The body stores what had no space to be consciously felt, and when the mother wound goes unaddressed, it keeps sending the same signal. Something here still hurts. But we were taught not to listen, to only treat the symptoms, to keep moving, producing, distracting, pretending the noise isn't coming from within. But the body doesn't forget. It speaks. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it screams. And when you finally decide to listen, you realize it was never trying to punish you. It just wanted to be heard. But it's not just the body that holds the wound. The mind holds a figure, a constant presence that sets rules, imposes limits, stirs up guilt. Even when you've grown, even if your actual mother is long gone, the psychic mother remains. She's the one who won't let you relax, who calls you selfish for putting yourself first, who accuses you of being dramatic every time you feel something deeply. She doesn't yell, but she watches. She doesn't nurture, but she controls. And worst of all, sometimes she speaks with your own voice. Jung described this figure as part of the shadow, the unconscious realm where we hide the parts of ourselves we don't want to face. Within that shadow lives an internalized mother, who doesn't soothe, but monitors, who doesn't protect, but demands. She doesn't need to be present in your life to keep pulling the strings. She shows up when you sabotage yourself, when you feel ashamed to show affection, when you swallow your truth to keep the peace, when you seek approval from places that always denied you. The shadow mother echoes through your reactions. You think you're responding to the present, but really, you're reliving the past. And the cruelest part? Her voice feels so familiar, you believe it's your own. But it's not. It's an old recording on repeat. And no one ever hits stop. Breaking free from this figure is essential. And it doesn't happen through hate. It happens through clarity. Understanding that this inner mother was shaped by absence, fear, and failed attempts at being loved. And realizing you don't have to live under her shadow anymore. Maybe you think you chose the people you've been involved with. But if you look closely, you'll notice a pattern. A recurring emotional script. dressed up as coincidence. Cold, unstable, overly demanding partners. Relationships that start off intense and end with a familiar bitter taste. As if, without realizing it, you've been trying to heal through others a wound that started at home. Jung said we all carry inner images of the masculine and feminine. In women, that image is the animus, the unconscious masculine figure. A kind of inner authority that influences your decisions, your confidence, your ability to act. In men, it's the anima, the inner feminine archetype, which shapes emotional bonding, sensitivity, and the way they love. But when your relationship with your mother was marked by pain, instability, or emotional invasion, those internal images also become distorted. For women, this often results in a negative animus. Critical, controlling, perfectionist. An inner voice that never nurtures, only demands. That pushes for constant performance and is never truly satisfied. This doesn't just damage self-esteem, it chips away at emotional autonomy. You know what you want, but constantly doubt whether you can actually get there. In relationships, this becomes a cycle. You're drawn to partners who echo that inner voice, who criticize, withdraw, devalue you. Because deep down, you're trying to replay the original scene. And this time, finally be accepted. But the script never changes, and the wound only deepens. For men, it can show up as a wounded anima, leading them to seek in romantic love the nurturing mother they never had. They're drawn to emotionally unavailable, controlling, or needy women, and they often lose themselves trying to rescue, please, fix, hoping to finally earn now what they didn't receive back then. These dynamics aren't conscious. They're inherited patterns, acting like psychic magnets. You think you're choosing, but you're being led. And until you heal the image of the mother inside you, you'll keep repeating the same story, trying to resolve with someone else a pain that was never theirs. Healing the animus. Or anima isn't about becoming strong or zen. It's about recognizing where those inner voices come from. It's about reclaiming your right to relate without the burden of needing to be fixed. It's about ending the search for the love your mother couldn't give, and starting to build that love within yourself, without fear of being who you truly are. It's hard to accept, but it's necessary. Your mother may never have truly learned how to love, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how. She lacked emotional language, the felt sense of safety, the nurturing touch. She was also trying to survive, and many times she carried wounds even deeper than yours. You didn't just inherit her blood, you inherited her fear, her silence, her unresolved emotional blueprint. You inherited the harsh gaze she received from her own mother, the absence she learned to normalize, the urge to please, the shame of feeling, the struggle to trust. That inheritance doesn't come in words. It comes in gestures, in tone, in how she loved, and in what she didn't know how to give. When a mother doesn't know how to love, she raises children who believe they have to earn affection. Children who bend over backwards not to be a burden, not to disrupt the fragile connection that exists. And that effort, repeated for years, becomes identity. But the cruelest part? It doesn't stop with you. If it goes unrecognized, the pattern continues. From parents to children, from children to grandchildren. Generations trying to heal a pain no one ever dared to name. Breaking that cycle takes courage. It means stopping the automatic repetition. It means asking yourself, is this mine? Or am I carrying this out of loyalty to someone who also suffered? You're not just healing yourself. You're doing something no one in your family may have had the chance to do. You're putting a period at the end of a sentence that's been running for generations. Not to deny the past, but to stop being its echo. Because the cycle only ends when someone looks it in the eye and says, enough. This ends with me. And that's not a burden. That's power. Breaking a cycle doesn't begin with some grand gesture. It begins inside, with the quiet decision to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. But to do that, you have to cut an invisible thread, the one that still ties you to the idea that you owe something to your mother's pain. That loyalty isn't logical. You didn't consciously choose to carry her suffering. But somewhere along the line, you learned that being loyal meant repeating, that loving meant living like she did, feeling what she felt, staying silent like she stayed silent. That's why so many adults walk around feeling indebted to their parents, as if they can only be happy after fixing what once went wrong. as if they need permission to live their own life. Jung called this the process of individuation, the moment you stop living in service to parental images and start becoming who you really are. It's when you finally move out of your mother's psychic house, even if you left her physical 1 year ago. It's when you realize true love doesn't require a cage. Separating doesn't mean cutting ties. It means no longer living to compensate. It means letting go of the guilt of having your own desires. It means knowing you can honor your mother's story and still choose a different ending. Unconscious loyalty keeps you stuck in scarcity, fear, and self-abandonment. It makes you repeat her suffering as a way of staying connected. But there are other ways to honor those who came before you. One of them is living the life they never could. You don't have to keep following the script. You can end the scene. You can close the cycle with respect, but without staying a character in a story that didn't start with you and doesn't have to end with you. Anger is a feeling almost no one wants to admit when the subject is mother. From a young age, you were taught that to love is to not question. That feeling anger toward the one who gave you life is wrong, ugly, selfish. So, you bury it, swallow it, pretend you've made peace. But inside, your body simmers. The thing is, anger doesn't just disappear. It turns into tension, anxiety, exhaustion. It mutates, becomes guilt, numbness, chronic illness. Because feeling anger but having no outlet is like starting a fire and asking your body to pretend it's not burning. But anger has a role. It points to where a boundary was crossed. It marks the places you were invaded. It screams when you try to stay silent. And that's why it isn't the enemy of healing. It's the beginning of it. You don't have to hate your mother to feel anger about what happened. You don't have to become the villain of your own story to acknowledge you were hurt. Anger doesn't erase love. It just removes the blindfold. Jung said the unconscious acts when it isn't seen. And as long as your anger remains unspoken, it keeps acting out. You project it onto others. You overreact. You sabotage. You shut down. Or you stay stuck in relationships that stir the same old frustration, just with a different name. Anger needs to be processed, not dumped on someone, but understood. You can write it out, scream, cry, punch a pillow. What you can't do is keep pretending it doesn't exist. Anger is a bridge, a signal that you've finally started listening to yourself, that the part of you that's been ignored for years is now demanding attention. And when that anger is held with maturity, it transforms. It becomes clarity, becomes energy, becomes momentum for liberation. You don't need to apologize for feeling what you felt. Pain doesn't heal through forced silence. It heals when it's given space to be fully felt and finally released. It's hard to admit that the same mother who once held you might have also hurt you, that the figure who offered protection may have left wounds too. But as long as you idealize her, you stay stuck. Because idealizing someone means choosing fantasy over truth. And the myth of the perfect mother is one of the heaviest there is. It tells you that questioning is betrayal, that remembering pain is being unfair, that naming what was missing is disloyal. But this myth doesn't set you free, it keeps you trapped. Idealizing your mother blocks you from seeing who she truly was. But more than that, it blocks you from seeing who you truly are. Because if your whole identity is built around someone who could never be wrong, then every bit of pain must be your fault. You become the problem, the difficult child, the ungrateful adult, the kid who just doesn't understand. And in that story, the original wound never gets healed. It just takes on new forms of self-sabotage. But your mother wasn't a myth. She was a woman, with stories, with trauma, with limitations and patterns, with her own pain, possibly deeper than yours. Seeing your mother as human isn't disrespect, it's maturity. It's stepping out of the child's idealization and into adult awareness. It's saying, I see who you were, fully. And from this place, I choose to separate, to heal, to rebuild. Jung reminded us that every archetype has two sides. The mother is not only light, she can also be shadow, control, absence, overwhelm. And as long as you refuse to see that other side, you'll keep waiting for something she may never give. You'll keep projecting onto others the need to be saved. Breaking free from idealization is the beginning of real freedom. Because only then can you choose a new reference, a new way of mothering yourself, a new kind of love, one that doesn't demand perfection, only presence. If the real mother wounded, the archetypal mother can heal. Not the flesh and blood woman who birthed you, but a much older, broader image from the collective unconscious, the Great Mother. Jung identified this archetype as a universal force present in every culture. The Great Mother is the principle that nurtures, holds, sustains, protects. She shows up with different names across time: Isis, Demeter, Mary, Yemenjah. The name doesn't matter. What matters is what she represents. An inner sanctuary where you are seen unconditionally, where you can exist without having to earn it. This archetype doesn't replace your real mother, but it gives you a new point of reference. An inner presence you can summon, imagine, cultivate. And that presence plays a critical role. It begins to repair the emotional foundation fractured by the original wound. When you connect with this image, you begin to treat yourself with more kindness, to care for your body with more respect, to listen to your emotions with more compassion, not because someone taught you how, but because you finally allow a healthy inner mother to exist. She doesn't demand you be strong all the time. She doesn't guilt-trip you. She doesn't vanish when you need her. She stays. She holds. She sees. And it's not just during meditation. You can call on the Great Mother the moment self-criticism kicks in. When that inner voice whispers, "You messed up again." You pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, how would the nurturing mother speak to me right now? You can even say it out loud. I'm here with you, and even now, you are still worthy of love. That's how the reprogramming starts. In the middle of the breakdown, the panic, the autopilot. She doesn't need candles or silence. She just needs space inside of you. The mother wound doesn't heal by trying to fix the real woman. It heals when you discover, within yourself, the source of love that was missing. And you start day by day, offering that to yourself, until it becomes your new way of being. There comes a point when understanding is no longer enough. You already know there's a wound. You've recognized the patterns. You've connected the dots. Now it's time to act, not out there, but inside. Because healing doesn't come only from reflection. It requires practice, presence, choice. What we call the work with the mother shadow is the conscious practice of looking at everything that was left behind in the bond with your mother and bringing it back into the light. It means reconnecting with emotions that got stuck, with parts of you that were silenced, with the internal voices still echoing her judgment. One of the most powerful practices is the unsent letter to your mother. Not a polite letter, a real one. Write everything that got stuck in your throat. Everything you never got to say. Write with rage, with pain, with truth. No filter, no fear of exaggeration. This letter isn't meant to be sent. It's yours, but it needs to leave your body. Then read it aloud, and burn it. For real. Watch the paper turn to ash. Watch the words become smoke. Feel what shifts inside when you give yourself permission to name what's been hidden for so long. Another powerful tool is the energetic cord-cutting ritual. Take a ribbon, string, anything to symbolize the bond. Wrap it around yourself and imagine that this thread represents the part of your mother that still lives in you. The one that controls, limits, demands. Hold that image clearly. Then cut it. With scissors, a knife, whatever you choose. The act matters less than the intention. What you're cutting is not the bond with her. It's the psychic prison that remained. Jung's technique of active imagination is also a powerful ally. Close your eyes. Visualize your inner mother. What does she look like? Is she critical? Cold? Demanding? Talk to her. Ask what she wants. Tell her what you need. Let the dialogue flow freely. Then, visualize another figure emerging. The healing mother. The one who affirms, who nurtures, who loves without conditions. See her approach the child you once were. Watch her do what the other could not. Let this image root itself in you. And if possible, write to that child too. The one who waited. The one who learned to hide. Write as if you are the adult they always needed. Tell them they're not alone anymore. Tell them someone is here now. Tell them you are here. And if you want to go deeper, with more clarity and consistency, I created a resource that can help. The ebook, 21 Days of Transformation with the Teachings of Carl Jung. Studies show the brain needs about 21 days to begin consolidating a new emotional and mental pattern. That's exactly what this ebook offers. A daily step-by-step, with practical, straightforward exercises anyone can do, even without a background in psychology. It's 21 days to start disconnecting from the past and reconnecting with who you truly are. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment. This might be exactly the push you've been needing. Don't miss it. Because looking at this pain, touching this wound, feeling this anger, takes more strength than pretending everything's fine. Facing what was denied for generations isn't weakness, it's courage. And that kind of courage changes lives. You may not have chosen this pain, but now you get to choose what you do with it. And that changes everything. Because when someone decides to break the pattern, they become the turning point for an entire lineage. You're not just healing for yourself. You're healing for every woman in your family who was silenced, for every man who wasn't allowed to cry, for every child who swallowed their tears and learned to survive on scraps. When you choose to treat yourself with more love, you rewrite something ancient. You interrupt a pattern that's gone on too long. Being the healed ancestor of your own story isn't about being perfect. It's about no longer living on repeat. It's about stepping outside the cycle and saying, this ends here. The pain doesn't vanish, but it shifts. From burden to awareness. From weight to root. And from that root, you can grow something new. Not a life shaped by fear, guilt, or the need for approval, but a life rooted in who you really are. Everything you felt, everything you carried, everything you had to let go of. You are the break in the chain, but you are also the beginning of something new. You can't change what happened, but you can decide what you're still willing to carry forward. If this video spoke to something deep inside you, that's already a sign that healing has begun. Because healing doesn't start with answers, it starts with truth. That moment when something inside you whispers, this is it. This is where it hurts. And from there, a choice is born. You can keep feeding the same patterns, or you can start writing a new story. Not because the past was fair, but because you're tired of being tied to it. So now, I invite you to do something simple but powerful. Write, I choose to set myself free in the comments. Write it to seal this moment, to mark it, to claim it. And if this video touched you in any way and you want more people to have access to this kind of message, consider clicking the thanks button below. That kind of support makes a real difference in keeping this channel going, reaching those who are still stuck in pain they can't yet name. Every contribution helps this message go further. Thank you for being here. And remember, healing doesn't come from outside. It begins when you finally choose to come home to yourself. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.